Hello and welcome to all our viewers watching here in the US and around the world. I'm Linda Kincaid. At least 51 people are confirmed dead from massive flooding in Texas, and at least 15 of those are children. Officials say 27 children are also missing from Camp Mystic, a girls' summer camp in Kirk County, Texas. It's one of the areas hardest hit by the flooding. The parents of two young girls have confirmed to CNN that their daughters have died. 13-year-old Blair Harbour and her 11-year-old sister Brooke. Other campers confirmed dead include 9-year-old Janie Hunt, who you see here, 9-year-old Lila Bona and Sarah Marsh, as well as 8-year-old Renee Smadstrala, seen here in this photo. Her family confirmed her death to CNN, her uncle telling us that it is truly devastating. Well, Camp Mystic is near the Guadalupe River in the town of Hunt, Texas. It's near Kerrville, northwest of San Antonio. Torrential rains caused that river to rise more than 20 feet in less than 2 hours. And the destruction in the area has been widespread. Texas Governor Greg Abbott visited Camp Mystic on Saturday. He says it is horrendously ravaged. He also says emergency crews are working non-stop to save people.
We will be relentless in going after and ensuring that we locate every single person who's been a victim of this flooding event. We're not going to stop today or tomorrow. We will stop when the job is completed. Between now and whenever that day arrives when the job is completed, this is a 24/7 operation, day and night, because we know that we are looking for Texans and Americans, and we put them as our top priority, and we will find every one of them.
CNN senior national correspondent Ed Lavandera has more on Camp Mystic and what happened there.
Just beyond the Guadalupe River over there is Camp Mystic, and these are the cabins where so many young people were swept away by the floodwaters. 27 by last count still missing, and at this point, as every hour that has gone by, it becomes harder and harder to hope that these children can still be found alive. But I have talked to a number of people who had children or were counselors at the camp, and they described these cabins that you see here in the distance. This is where the younger children would stay. This is kind of where you start out, and then you graduate your way up through the ranks here as you get older. But several people tell us that as the floodwaters came up in the middle of the night, the children couldn't get out this way toward us because that's where the floodwaters were coming from. The water had them pinned inside, that it was the young counselors, and by young I mean these are just 18, 19-year-olds who were inside the cabin with those children, unable to get away. Several people tell us that a lot of those counselors were breaking windows in the back of those buildings and then pulling kids through the windows and in their pajamas, making their way up through the hillside there to get to higher ground and to safety. That is some of the heroic work that these young people managed to do to help save as many lives as possible. There were some 750 kids at this camp, and you can see how extensive the damage is. First of all, just look at the ferociousness that these floodwaters came through, uprooting massive trees and just decimating the riverbed here as everything was rushing downstream. When you look at the campground here, you can see the recreation hall is still standing for the most part, but part of the wall there ripped apart. You know, all of this was underwater, and that is the one thing that has been really hard to kind of describe in all of this is just the amount of water that these floods brought. Where we're standing was underwater at some point, and consider how high above the river we are at this point, gives you a sense that all of this was barreling downstream. People were just simply unable to get out of the way as these floodwaters went up as fast as they did, and that is why this situation has been so extremely deadly. Ed Lavandera, CNN, near Camp Mystic, Texas.
I want to welcome Carrie Burgess, a meteorologist based in Kerrville, Texas, who joins us now from Fredericksburg, Texas. Thanks so much for your time, and I'm so sorry for what's happening there to your community.
It has definitely been a tragic weekend. It was supposed to be festive, obviously. July 4th, 4th of July celebrations along the river were planned, and music festivals and such, even right there in downtown Kerrville. And this whole weekend just changed during the overnight hours, Thursday night into Friday morning. It has been a really difficult time here in the Texas Hill Country, and the loss of life is staggering. I've grew up here, and I've been to that river so many times. I've lost some friends and acquaintances this weekend that I've known for a while, and it's just really been difficult. And as a meteorologist, it's hard because you always want to do your best to prepare people and keep people safe. But the Guadalupe River has flooded in years past, even higher stages than what we saw. Yes, for example, 1987, lose their life in a flood similar to this. Downstream that time near Comfort, Texas, which is east of Kerrville. This time it was Camp Mystic. It was a little bit different this time because we had rain in several different locations, and a lot of people really think of the Guadalupe River as just one river, but in Kerr County, and especially west of Kerrville, it splits into two forks. There's a North Fork and there's a South Fork, and they came together right at Hunt, Texas, and that's where Camp Mystic is located. And it just seems like we had two walls of water coming from two different directions that merged right there at Hunt. And that is where we've seen most of the devastation and most of the tragic circumstances there. And that was unlike some of our previous flood events. But this has been going on. This is about probably our fifth or sixth flood of this magnitude since we're going back 100 years now. But 1932, we had one that looked very similar to this. So it's not uncommon. I won't say it's common, but it's very. That river has had a history, even though it's a very beautiful river and tranquil most of the time, of becoming a beast in the overnight hours, especially like this event was.
So I have to ask you, Kerry, given that flash floods are not uncommon and so many residents have said they had little to no warning, from your perspective, why was this event so hard to forecast or communicate in time?
There may have been several factors here. It's hard to say. You know, the watch came out a day before. And a watch is usually when people, just like a hurricane or tornado watch or any other type of weather watch, the hope is that people will be on the lookout, or at least be thinking about the possibility that something could happen. We have numerous flood watches in this area throughout the years, and several times a year we get a flood watch here. Getting a flood of this magnitude is on the high end. And when tropical system involved, like this one, this was Tropical Storm Barry, it can rain 10 to 15 inches in a short amount of time, like it did. But the hardest part of the forecast is knowing and determining exactly where that will happen. Now, people went to bed Thursday night, 10 p.m., and it wasn't raining, not yet. So this all happened mostly after midnight and up to 3 or 4 in the morning. But the watch was issued ahead of time. It's just that we weren't seeing any rain developing. It exploded after midnight while people were sleeping. And I think the hardest part there is maybe people didn't expect it to be that torrential. And perhaps it's hard in West Kerr County to get communications out there. It's more rural. It's also very difficult to get to. There's only 2 roads out that direction in the entire county. And if the floods occur on both forks of the rivers, you're trapped. And I think that is what happened here. It's just unfortunate that it occurred. And maybe in the future there will be a better way to communicate to those camps out west that are separated from Kerrville and separated a little bit from the rest of the county, because it's a completely different terrain in the western Kerr County area as opposed to areas just east of Kerrville.
We're having a couple of communication difficulties, but I just want to ask you one final question about these flood
Sure.
waves that we've heard of that can mean that this river can travel anywhere from 25 to 40 miles an hour, which is, up to 65 kilometers an hour. Can you explain for us, can you help us visualize what that would have been like?
Well, imagine what it's like if you're in a swimming pool and you decide you want to run, and that water's not moving. How hard is that? Water is very dense and heavy. The river itself is generally maybe a foot or two deep in parts of western Kerr County. But if it rains 10 to 15 inches, the surface below the water base itself is actually limestone and not mud or dirt. So it acts like concrete or a street. So when the rain's at that level, 3 to 5 inches per hour, like we saw, it produces a wall of water, and it will move it, as you said, up to 40 miles per hour. So you're talking 2 trillion gallons of water produced by this particular event. When you look at the water equivalent, how much force and how much water was produced by this torrential rainfall and a flood wave like that, you only have minutes to react. So in this case, it's very much like a tornado. You probably don't have more than 10 or 15 minutes to prepare for that.
Yeah, absolutely frightening. Kerry Burgess, we appreciate your
Yes.
time. We're so sorry for your loss as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Well, our breaking news coverage continues in just a moment. When we come back, how a birthday getaway at that river nearly turned into tragedy for one group of friends and family. Plus, we'll be speaking to a senior officer with the Salvation Army in Kerrville, Texas, to better understand the situation there. Stay with CNN.